Mini Yeti. Didn't think I'd find Yeti on this eating lunch in Virginia City, but I did. Got some wild horses coming through. Look at that. Can add it to our nature album.
Buddies. They're stalling traffic.
Wow, they're loud. Look everybody, it's Thomas the Train. You can take Thomas the Train and get a train ride. We've arrived at the Comstock Gold Mill and Museum. There's a lot of Comstock mining machinery left behind. Savage Mine also used to utilize this mill. I believe it's haunted. It's a possibility. There's 4 or 5 terrible deaths near here. And of course you have the Savage Superintendent's home. President Grant stood up there during a parade and waved to people passing by. A lot of politicians that stayed at that home, while the bottom floor was used for their bullion, was a mining office, administration for the Savage Mine, and probably this mill that you see just over the hill here. It's pretty exciting. Cannot wait to check out this place. We're in our downtown Virginia City. Beautiful Mount Davison overshadowing this location. This is like my 20th location. It's very special to me. I told you when I moved and relocated out here, we're gonna take Virginia City by storm. We're gonna visit all these great locations. Most of them turned out to be haunted and they look beautiful on our site. It's all about preserving history, and anything else is a plus. If you look, there's a Mackey mansion. John Mackey owned it, and it's very haunted. During my brief time, I experienced so much there. I'd love to go back to check out more. It's a beautiful mansion, but not as large as the Savage Mansion, which contains 22 rooms. This 1860s mill was built by Joshua Hendy. Actually, they built it in San Francisco, then they transported it. It was prefabricated, transported it to the Comstock Lode of Virginia City. It was a 2-stamp mill. It wasn't very large. We visited mills that had 40 stamps, each one 1,000 pounds of crushing force. And we'll walk the grounds, and I'll do a little bit of investigating, see if the grounds are haunted, see if I get any EVPs. A lot of machinery, mine carts, cogs, belts, machinery, ranging from the 1800s into the 1900s. Joshua Hendy was also responsible for operating, owning the Hendy Mill in Goldbug Park in Placerville, which is Placerville was originally called Hangtown, known for its multiple lynchings from the lawlessness that it experienced. And we've already visited the Hendy Mill up there. We had gotten a tour of the stamps, and the mills are almost identical. But we'll definitely walk around. We'll take some pictures, and then I'll walk the grounds and check out some of this old machinery. There's an old car. Looks like an old Model T. Some wagons. You never know. This place has a long history. I've heard it's haunted, but it has a long history of, there's a ORCAG, a long history of deaths, misfortunes that occurred at the Savage Mine. And if you look real carefully, well, there's a railroad yard we investigated, but if you look real carefully, we've also investigated this site up on above the debris pile. That mine is massive. It goes over 1,000 feet down, and we've been here. We've checked it out. It's a pretty amazing site, but we'll definitely check out more. I'm looking forward to it. And then I'll give you a more in-depth history once we're done checking out the mill. This is Lord Rick, your founder of the Paranormal and Ghost Society. And one last thing. That's the Truckee Railroad Yard, and we've done some work back in here. That place is pretty haunted.
150 years ago, last Halloween, Nevada's admitted to the Union. Abraham Lincoln needed the state really bad for all the wealth to help pay his war debt because he had borrowed money from foreign countries for the Civil War. Nevada did come through. A lot of the wealth that came off this hill helped build San Francisco and even helped rebuild after the 1906 earthquake. In 1875, President Grant came up to thank all the folks. He gave a speech off the Savage Mansion balcony up here. One of the reporters asked him how I like going down these deep, hot mines. He said, well, that's as close to hell as I ever want to be. On the back side of the mill is an old trestle. They used to bring ore in from the United Mine. They had a big jaw crusher back there, broke down the material, made it more manageable. They had a little ore crusher conveyor bringing material in these wooden bunks. From the wooden bunks that way, it's over 150 years old. I have a little conveyor that brings material out, drops it into the secondary crusher. That also breaks it down farther yet. And they have a cup belt elevator that takes the top of that chute and drops it into this hopper. This is an 1864 Joshua Hendy California power panner, cast in San Francisco, brought up here in pieces, put together and put to work. Northrop Grumman absorbed Joshua Hendy a few years back, but these guys are still the biggest manufacturer of mining equipment in the world. On the bottom of the hopper is a power panner, grinds material farther yet and drops it into the stamps on this side. This is just a little two-stamp mill. The slurry comes across these riffles as the table shakes back and forth. Gold being heavier gathered on the back side of those riffles. They scrape it out, pan it out, send it to the furnace, melt it down to ingots and off to the bullion room. A lot of this material went down to settling transmission power. I have it geared down about quarter speed, otherwise I'd probably shatter this old timbering in here. This is for demonstration only, gives you an idea how it was back in the day. They said a lot of these guys who worked in these mills went deaf after 6 months because they didn't use anything for air protection and stuff.
Yeah. Right. Because the stamps are so loud.
This thing still gets hard enough to shake out there when we're building the movie set.
Wow. Oh, that's cool. Stamps. Look at him go. Working stamps. I've been waiting to see a real one work for years. Wow. This thing still works. Wow. That's really awesome. I haven't seen one of these work at any place. Wow. There's water coming. Look at that. That's how they separate the gold on those.
7 years ago, half this didn't work. Within a week I had it running. I've been doing this tour for 7 years.
Wow.
But I get in here every day religiously, grease, oil, soak up all this old wood. In the spring I get in here and just kind of cinch everything up. I don't over tighten anything because it is cracked.
Yeah.
Put a sprinkler on top of that head and let it run for a week to soak up that wood.
That's why it made sense.
The currency here was gold and silver in Virginia City. And I just showed you guys working stamps inside the mill. There's only a few working stamp mills in the whole country, and you guys got to see an active one on video. And I hope that, we can advertise this place, boost their tourism, and also kind of show you the value in this place, because I'm telling you, there are no working stamps. Joshua Hendy not only owned this mill, but he also owned the mill in Placerville, which is known as the Gold Mine Park, Old Hangtown, and that was a similar mill too. That mill that Joshua Hendy owned is an exact replica of this one, huh? I don't ever stay still, you know that. But they took the ore and then they melted it in the metal. And he was showing me how the assay office would take samples out of this. It's kind of like a kiln. This mill was built in the 1860s. It was the first of its kind in the Comstock. And it mainly served the Savage Mine. The Savage Mine shaft, you see this pile of debris and this hill? Shaft ran in a spiral about 1,500 feet. And we'll go ahead and we'll visit the superintendent's home up on the hill as well, because it kind of goes with this location. The founding of Savage Mine, it's kind of disputable. There's one story that a man named Savage from Downeyville, California, another location we'll be working with, moved to Virginia City in 1859. He bought the land for some jumpers along with 2 or 3 other associates. Didn't invest too much time and sold part of his claim to Carlson and DeRoot. Around, I don't know, it was... I'd have to look up the years, I'm not sure, but it was in the beginning runnings of the mine and the mill. The other version describes Henry Comstock. He showed the Savage the claim. It was already staked by Comstock himself. I'm not sure which, it could be the later of the two. Other story says in 1859, Crowell, Chase, Carmack, Surdevant, and Savage, L.C. Savage. The original claim was 1,800 feet along the Comstock Lode. In other words, this partnership of the mine was owned by multitude individuals. A lot of times, many of the miners would get together, put their funds together, and they'd all purchase, or they'd all put their stake on a claim. This may have been the case. This mine and mill may have been owned or operated by 5 superintendents. Or, well, the superintendents watched it. This may have had 5 different owners all at the same time, or co-owners, or whatever you want to call it. In 1865, the company built a mill in the Washoe Valley to process order. Captain Sam Curtis and Charles Bonner that were the superintendents of the Savage. They lived in that yellow house, which is found between these 2 homes. You can kind of see it. In the early years, Savage went in decline by the end of 1865, but became a major producer the following 3 years in rich ore when they struck at the 600-foot level. In 1876, they hit water at the 22-foot level. It flooded, according to the tour guide. He told me that quite a few men died from fires in the 700 miles of tunnels, and around the 3,000-foot or 1,600-foot level and on, when they hit water, and fires broke out and flooding. A lot of bodies were never recovered here. We'll get into the deaths in a little bit because this is supposedly a haunted site. At the 2,200-foot level, they hit water. As you know, this is still very hot underground. A lot of geothermal energy, scalding water. And of course, once the tunnel was flooded, the miners would end up drowning or being burned, scalded alive. But there was a new shaft built by the Fourth Ward School, and you can't see it, but there's another shaft that's closed up near the Fourth Ward, and that second shaft remained productive through the years as well. And eventually the shafts were connected by the Collar Mine, which is nearby. I'll definitely do the Collar Mine in the future so we can kind of hot link these 2 places on our site together. And the Sutro Tunnel, which connected many mines underground at over 1,000 feet down. And he said the Sutro Tunnel ran right under here and right to underneath the school. In the 1870s, the production of the Savage, its boom came to an end, give or take. From 1863 to 1909, because there was a little bit of mining that took place after the 1870s, despite the water-filled shafts, they just would not work at those lower levels. And eventually the mine would become exhausted. But the production was over at around 18 million. In 1878, the Savage had a distinction between being the first mine on the Comstock to connect with the Sutro. As I was saying earlier, the Sutro runs under it. One of the shafts ran right about 15 feet out in front of me. If you look right here where all this machinery is, where that fence is, there's a caved-in shaft. Went 1,600 feet down right to the Sutro. And they would be able to take the Sutro to various mines and underground to get to different districts. I hear train whistles. It's Thomas the Engine Week, so they have Thomas the Engine running through the ghost town. There was a lot of strange deaths that happened. Elisha Cocking died in 1876, fell 200 feet into the Savage Mine. John Kelty died in 1874. Does not actually, he fell down a shaft. These shafts went over 1,500 feet. Samuel Trezone died. Was actually accidentally killed in the mine. He was known as the Giraffe Man. And Thomas Little died in a shaft where he fell to his death. Actually, the cage had slipped, and 4 men had grabbed onto it and were hanging for dear life. And poor Thomas held on for a couple minutes, could not hold on any further, and fell down to the depths of the darkness. Rumor has it the Savage Mine in this mill is haunted. I don't know. But it is nice to speculate. We'll run some EVPs, take some video, and we'll see if we get anything. If not, these are only one of the only working stamps in Nevada, and it's wonderful to promote this place and put it on our site. You don't see a lot of content on these historic sites in Virginia City. A lot of ghost groups only care about ghosts. I care more about the history. If we get ghosts, it just adds and allows other people who have maybe an interest in the paranormal not just to enjoy the history, but to come to these places. And you know, even if you pay for a tour, it's well worthwhile to see the stamps run, and it keeps this place running for many years to come. Look at that. Thomas the Train. I'm going to be taking, not Thomas the Train, but I'm going to be taking the railroad train up to Gold Hill to have dinner. And then I'll ride back to Virginia City, not this week, but maybe in a couple months. So I gave you guys a rundown. There's a lot of old machinery here. And we're going to promote this place. Like I said, the tour, the money that you pay for this tour goes towards the restoration of the mill and to keep the stamps running. So please donate or at least pay for the tour. I like paying for tours of these sites because it helps keep them running and well alive. I don't care what anybody says. I'm a historian and a preservationist, and this is what we do. We also investigate the paranormal, but we try to mix that with a little history and exploration too, and that's why I'm here today. So we'll take a few more photos. Just want to show you guys the working stamp mill and some of the remnants of the past. It's a beautiful site. It's well worth visiting. As your founder, Lord Rick, check us out, www.paranormalghostsociety.org, your gateway to adventure, truth, and friendship, and everything strange and in between. Collapsed shaft, but some of them tunnels are still very...
People that worked in the mine must have been pretty small.
Yeah, well, it also was very hot and not very comfortable, that's for sure. A lot of the ice that was used in these mines came from Boca. Because they had ice houses and they just cut them, ship them up here. That's how you kept cool. Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's the combination shaft, everyone. That shaft ran over 3,000 feet below Virginia City, and I've stood at the shaft, and it's just a black hole of death. Very dangerous. They put a fence over it so the bats could come through, but still it's very dangerous. I've been up, climbing up around there, and I had to be really careful. I like this place. It's left a long-standing mark on me. And the beams that went to these mills, this beam stands almost 3 feet high. It's one solid piece of wood. It's monolithic. They'd also cut some of the wood by using these saw blades you can see. I guess they'd cut their own tools and repair the mill beams and right on site build the machinery. Like, for example, you needed the saw so you could cut. You see how this machine sits on a wooden frame? You'd have to cut that by hand or by using one of these saws. Very self-sufficient. Everything was done on site because this is the Wild West. It wasn't easy to get materials back here through these mountains. And check out this cog. This thing weighs like 300 pounds. This is solid iron. It's amazing. These gears would spin to lower the elevators up and down in the ore carts. Massive cogs and gears.
1852 to 1918.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
This is reproduction. I got the only reproduction back.
Wow. That's amazing.
Cool.
That's why we named that Virginia, Nevada.
Oh,
Gotcha.
You good?
Yeah. I got a lot of pictures of this place. Yeah, thanks for the tour.
Thank you guys for letting me share with you.
no problem.
No problem.
Drive careful and all that.
All right, thank you. So now we'll park at Savage House and we'll go visit it. I got a little history piece on that too.
And then he gave me his card.
Cool.
Because he said they're going to be filming a movie up here and stuff, and we could check out his Facebook.
Just want to thank Outlaw for a wonderful tour. He gave us his card. I've seen him many times downtown. He does the Western shows, but he also gives tours at this mill, and he's the one responsible for restoring the stamps and making them work again. And the guy's got talent. We've walked up these tracks. Virginia Truckee Railroad and the train yard. Just saying bye to the mill. It's a nice overcast evening. The sun's coming out over Mount Davison here. It's a great place, and he was he gave us a great tour. He gave us a lot of information. He told us a lot of things aside from the tour that aren't even part of the mill. A lot of history to the area about how there was 40,000 people that lived here, and told me that the Chinese, I never knew that, but they lived up higher up on the summit, not near the summit, but on the upper part of Virginia City, and dug a shaft 1,600 feet down where they could take a tunnel up into Chinatown. We've investigated Chinatown also, and I've stood at the top of Sugar Loaf Peak, which is a volcanic dome, and they're going to be making a movie here, and he was telling me about it, and they're going to start building other structures like this Virginia, Nevada. That's a brand new structure. It says Comstock. But Outlaw gave us a really great tour. I want to thank him for that. Because like I say, I mean, the tour business is how these places survive and these people make a living. And if you don't take their tour, everybody's parking here, nobody's taking the tour. If you don't take the tour, that cannot happen. Take the tour. If you want to ghost hunt a little while you're in the mill like I did, do it. But focus on the history. You're not going to see anything like this again. Comstock Gold Mill. We're at the Savage Mansion. Supposedly some people say it's 22 rooms, some people say it's 21 rooms. I would have no idea because I have not been in here. But it was constructed by the Savage Mining Company in 1861 at the same time that the Comstock Gold Mill was constructed, which is below. And I can't really show you guys it because it's being blocked or obstructed by other homes that are on the hillside, but you can take the stairs up the street level. This Virginia City is tiered all the way down to the bottom of the canyon. You can see the rooftop straight ahead of the Comstock Gold Mill. We just came back from being inside. It's a shame that more people don't take the tours. If people really knew what how stamps worked and ore processing, I mean, men lost their hearing. Most men died in their 30s. A lot of them died from mercury poisoning. That mill, a lot of deaths are associated with the mill, so it's probably haunted. But the combination shaft wasn't very successful, but it was one of the deepest mines in the world. And I've stood on that dump pile, and I've stood at the shaft entrance and climbed around the ruins. It's pretty beautiful of a place. The elegant mansion that you see in front of us in this video was a French Second Empire style or architecture. Served as a residence for the superintendent of the Savage Mine and operation for the Comstock Gold Mill, which we just had entered. Today it's a museum, but you can still see the stamps working and some of the old mining equipment used. It was well worth paying the tour price. I'd even donate, because I think it's great what Outlaw did restoring this location. Well, Thomas the engine's coming through again. Sorry if it's loud. It's a bustling little town, even though it's a living ghost town and a lot of abandoned sites. There's also a lot of active sites. The mansion's kind of in disrepair. It was a lot worse back in the 60s. It almost was demolished, falling apart that bad. But it's been somewhat restored. The woodwork is original, and it really is suffering. But mansions like these were not touched by the Great Fire, and they still exist today, which is phenomenal, because we're lucky that the Great Fire didn't take this place from us, so that we can enjoy it for years to come. First floor was the mine office. The upper 2 stories provided a residence for various superintendents of the Savage Mine and mill that was on site. Ulysses S. Grant stood on this balcony above. The 18th President of the United States, General of the Army, spoke to the townspeople from the balcony floor in 1879, and then they had a parade in his honor. And he's also stayed at the Mackey Mansion. You can't really see it, but it's up the road. That's an awesome haunted place. Movies have been done there, and Johnny Depp even claimed the place was haunted. I'm sure this place is haunted as well. I don't know what kind of ghost stories are associated with, but I'd love to investigate it. It is private property, however. The building's been restored, so as they've said, has many architectural features: a mansard roof, dormer windows, delicate gingerbread trim, 14-foot vaulted ceilings, 7-foot copper bathtub, a Lancrusta frieze in the main hall, some of the original Victorian furnishings. This is definitely a Victorian type of home, more of a French Second Empire style Victorian, but no less. They definitely don't make mansions like this with very tall vaulted ceilings. And I mean, think about it, 21 to 22 rooms. You have there's 3 floors and then probably a basement. This would be partially underground, maybe a wine cellar, and your first floor, your second floor, your third floor. When Ulysses Grant had made his speech from the upper balcony at the time, Mrs. Monaghan, her husband had been killed in one of the mines. Therefore, she worked as a housekeeper to the superintendent. And she was here when Ulysses Grant made his speech. Apparently, the Savage Mine closed in 1918. I wasn't sure. I've had multiple dates, multiple historical references. Some people say 1906, some people say 1918. However, when the mine closed, superintendent stopped living here, the house fell into disrepair, and then it was restored, I believe. It didn't have no paint. It was falling apart. It was restored in 1962, I believe. The Savage Mining Company deeded the land to Mrs. Monaghan. Mrs. Monaghan, after the closure of her mine in 1918, the company, out of a good deed, had deeded the home and the furnishings to her. It's just very historic, and it's beautiful in every way, and it is an important site. I don't care what anyone says. People should enjoy it for what it is. You're not going to see anything like this ever again. It's a one-of-a-kind mansion. Watch it, honey. It's a one-of-a-kind mansion. And you can see the type of architecture. I can kind of zoom in. Beautiful woodwork. All the wood has been carved. Hand-carved, for that matter. Even the porch railings. This entire home was custom-made from scratch. Built with the hard work of some brilliant architects who designed these homes to last. This home is from 1861. It's over 150 years old, and it's a testament to today, the resilience and the strength and the will to physically construct such a beautiful structure, because it's American made. It's crafted with the hard work of these men, people who came to Virginia City to make a life out of mining. Some scaffolding. I assume they're still working on maybe doing some future restoration. It says it will return. So apparently you can go here. Let's see what it has to say.
Offices of something enterprises.
I see that. R&M Enterprise. Savage Mansion. This elegant mansion designed in French Second Empire style served as a residence for the superintendent. Nothing I haven't said before. And it talks about Ulysses Grant. It's a beautiful home. It's American made. It's what makes it special. Over 150 years it stood. It survived the Great Fire. It survived the beginnings of the Savage Mine and the Comstock Gold Mill all the way to the mine and mill's closure. It does need work. A lot of these old historic structures now have offices and businesses, but you can still get permission to get in them. I'm going to try that, but it says in 1859, our corral. This is the one, I was reading this earlier, but there's different stories. I don't know what's true. But Corral, Chase, Carmack, Sertivant, and A.O. Savage, and L.C. Savage. I believe they were cousins. The original Savage claim consisted of 1,800 feet along the Comstock. In 1865, the company built a mill in the Washoe Valley. As I was telling Tammy, it's a fine piece of history, but the upper porch, I don't think it's wise to step on it. There's wood planks that are cracked. It looks like, well, actually it looks like those planks all been replaced. You can tell that's new plywood. But the railings, you will not want to lean on those railings. Wow. Right? And go right over. Each ceiling is 14 feet high, minus the attic. 14-foot high ceilings. It's huge. 21 to 22 rooms here. I think even a wine cellar, because this would be the basement right here. And most of these old homes had a basement. I wanted to make sure that I was able to film and take some photographs, because this really does go with the Comstock Gold Mill that we just attended and the Savage Mine, and the home was just as important. This was the mining office. This is where they stored some of their bullion. They had vaults in these mansions, and the superintendents would watch over the gold and silver. And they would, out of the Savage Mine, they would at least, some of the ore was gold, some of it was silver, but they would dig multiple shafts, and these were deep shafts. And this mansion is a testament to its time. And it still stands overlooking the mill below that these superintendents who lived here would attend to. Hi. Beautiful home. Those wood railings, man, they get me. This looks like a major, it looks like something you see out of a movie. All the paint's gone off them, some of them are cracked, porch is falling apart, but the house itself is in good shape, like the windows and the woodwork, and it's still pretty much all intact. So that was a lake, and they probably in the 1800s could look out their window and see it, from the Savage Mansion. You know what's amazing is the men who lived here, the superintendents, they could walk out their front porch or stand on the upper porch and look at the mill below and tend to the operation of the mill and the miners to see if they're actually working or standing around outside doing nothing. Pretty cool. One time, everybody, this was a lake. It's now dry in part of Dayton, but in the 1800s there used to be water here. And Outlaw was telling me he used to cut the ice from some of these local lakes and then transport them to the mines to keep the miners cool, because you could only work in the mines about 15 minutes. They were 130, 140 degrees. But you got to visit the Savage Mansion. A lot of people don't know that the Savage Mansion goes hand in hand with the Comstock Gold Mill. I do, but not a lot of people know that. It's crazy. But it just shows you how much PGS, or the Paranormal Ghost Society, cares about history. But we're a very thorough paranormal group, and I care about the history. And it's amazing that Ulysses Grant stood on this balcony and gave a speech in the 1800s. Everything in Virginia City has a tale, and the sun's going down. It usually goes behind the monolithic Mount Davis, and we're going to come back in December. We're going to climb that beast. It has great views for over 200 miles in every direction. It's over 7,000 feet. Mark Twain used to talk about Davison Peak. But we're definitely going to make our way up to the top. And we want to go in December. That way all the mountains have powder on them and it's real scenic. But it's hard to believe that Ulysses Grant stood on this balcony and gave a speech to the citizens of Virginia City back in the 1800s. The president. Everything has a story, just like the Hendy Mill. You can only see the roof, but Joshua Hendy had two sister mills. One located here in Virginia City. The other one was located, see the aluminum roof? The other one was located in Placerville. Before it was called Placerville, it was called Hangtown. And today, they took the Hendy Mill site along with the mining district where millions of dollars in gold were extracted, and they named it Gold Bug Park. But the mill still stands today, and it's in much better shape than this mill, but the stamps don't work. This mill has working stamps, and that's what makes this special. But the superintendents would live on the second and third floor, do their business, their mining business out of the bottom floor, maybe walk down to the mill below, check on the mine, the operations of the mine, the mill, and come back up and handle operations, their base operations through here. We'll be back. But just to give you an idea how thorough we are, we actually did visit the Savage Mansion, which goes in accordance with the mill and the mine below. We care a lot about history. It's not just about ghosts. It's not about thrills and frills. It's about covering history. With history comes ghost. Everything's connected. Everything has a story. But I'm out of here. The sun's going down, and it's time for a brew. We're going to the Bucket of Blood Saloon, and we're getting some of their famous ale. And I'm going to get a little tipsy. It's been a good day. We've completed the old Story County Courthouse and Jail today. Great investigation. Had lunch at the Mustang Ranch. Everybody knows about the Mustang Ranch. Crazy wild girls. It's a legal brothel, and their steakhouse is awesome. Of course, the steakhouse and brothel are two separate entities owned by the same company, which is the Mustang Ranch. But they have great food. You gotta go. You gotta get a steak. You gotta get a burger. I had a pastrami burger. It was one of the best burgers I ever ate. With a whole plate of fries, and Tammy had this really awesome house salad. Man, with great views. This is what you see. This is what you see when you dine at the Mustang Ranch. Let me just show you the view. Of course, it sits a couple tiers higher, but if you look, it sits a couple tiers higher. But you could eat lunch on the balcony, dine on a steak, and this is what you see for 200 miles. Mountain ranges, vast expanses, and all of historic Virginia City. How can you go wrong with that? The Mustang Ranch is one of the most successful legal brothels in the state of Nevada, and it's one of the best restaurants in Virginia City. So we had gotten the luxury today to dine there, and there's a lot of kids dining there. It doesn't matter if the brothel owners also own the steakhouse. I'll tell you what, between the girls at the Mustang Ranch and eating a good steak, looks like my needs are fulfilled. Check us out, www.paranormalghostsociety.org. It's October 2015, almost Halloween. We're going to come back in about a week, and we're going to visit Silver Terrace cemeteries. We're being allowed in at night. We're going to do a second investigation, only the night portion of it. A few years ago, we did a day portion, history type of project, and now we're going to do an actual nighttime investigation. But I'm out of here. There will never be another mansion like this. 150 years of history, stories, tragedy, success, life, and death. The superintendents that would have stood up in the attic could have looked down at the Joshua Hendy Mill, which we just left. But this is the view from at the top. from the top of the Savage Mansion. The superintendents over the years had lived here for nearly 60 years, and you can see the views are just stellar. The higher the elevation of Virginia City, the better the views of the valleys and mountain ranges below. But I'm standing at the very top just to show you what it looks like at the top of the mansion looking down, and just trying to show you that you've got great views of the mill, the mountains, Sugarloaf Mountain. We've done a lot of sites: Chinatown, St. Mary's, Mackey Mansion, the Ponderosa Mine, the Washoe Club, the Comstock Lode area, various mines, a lot of different sites. Mills like the Union Mill, Silver Terrace Cemeteries, and many more. And you can check them out on our site. Every year we do at least 2 to 3 investigations up in this area. And today we've we've done investigations at the old Story County Jail and Courthouse, and we completed it here at the Joshua Hendy Mill, also known as the Comstock Gold Mill. I just wanted to give everybody different perspectives, show you what it's like standing at the bottom of the mansion, show you what it's like to stand at the top, just to put how large of a mansion this is into perspective size-wise, so you could kind of see that they don't really make mansions of this monolithic a size anymore. We're downtown Virginia City, still a bustling town. I mean, there is traffic, so you have to excuse me if you've heard some cars during my filming, but you're not going to get rid of the traffic here. Virginia City is so busy, night and day. People come here to drink at the saloons and party and live it up, or they come here to explore. There's the John Mackey Mansion. Like I said, we've also done that. The Flowery Mining District, the old Sugarloaf Mill. Many of the sites we visit around here are haunted. The Hebrew Cemetery. We've done so many places, and we really deserve a lot of credit. Even these TV shows and other paranormal groups have not done extensively the research and work we've done. I'm looking forward to more. We'll come back in December. We'll do the Mark Twain Museum, the Mount Davison area, because we're going to climb to the top or off-road to the top, and a lot more to come, people. Next few years, we're really going to be working it. Stay tuned for our next investigation at Silver Terrace Cemeteries at Boot Hill on Halloween night. Also got to see some wild horses just below the mill and the home today. I went past, and one of them stuck their head almost in my window and just like made out this god-awful sound. I think me and the horse got a little too close. I don't know, maybe it thought I had some fruit. I do have fruit in the cooler. It probably smelled that. But one last look from the top of the Savage Mansion. And the Comstock Gold Mine, and then the combination shaft, which we've also investigated. It's over 3,000 feet deep. You fall in there, you're a goner. This is Lord Rick.